let me say something that might feel like a relief. Most business advice is not bad. It's just incomplete. Ever wonder what it really takes to build a business and a life that feels like yours? Welcome to That Big CEO Energy. I'm Callie, entrepreneur, operations whiz, and your go-to for the real, raw, and unfiltered side of business and life. Because let's be honest, entrepreneurship isn't just about strategy and success. It's about figuring out who you are in the messy middle, trying new things, well, just because you can, and creating a life that actually fits you. From solo deep dives to candid convos with powerhouse business owners, we're talking all about the highs and the lows and the "why did no one warn me about this?" moments that come while chasing big dreams. So let's get uncomfortable, embrace the chaos, and make it happen. All right, let's talk about something that might feel uncomfortable at first, but if you really let this land, it can change how you approach your business forever. Today, we're talking about why cookie cutter business advice doesn't work and actually how to start building your unique success equation instead. Because if you've ever followed someone else's roadmap and thought, why is this working for everyone but me? This is the episode for you. And if you've ever wondered whether you're doing it wrong or if you're just different, I want to settle that question right now. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're not failing at business. You're just trying someone else's equation. Again, most business advice is not bad. It's just incomplete. It works for the person that created it in their season, with their energy, their resources, their personality, their nervous system, and their life constraints. And when we forget that, we start assuming that success is universal and failure is personal. It's not. Here's what usually happens, okay? You see someone successful. They share what worked for them. They package it into a framework, a course, a checklist, an ebook, whatever it is, and suddenly it's positioned as the way. Okay? So then you try it. You follow all of the steps. You show up, you do all the things, you go to all the calls, you do every single thing on the checklist. And instead of clarity, you feel pressure. Instead of you seeing your business flourish, you watch it go into a place that you never even thought was possible, and not in a good way. And instead of having confidence in running your business, you feel like you're constantly behind. And then comes the quiet thought, maybe I'm not cut out for this. My friends, that's not the truth. That's misalignment. And here's the thing that no one tells you early enough. Success isn't some formula. It's literally an equation. And equations change depending on the variables. What are the variables? The variables are your energy, your capacity, your season of life, your values, your goals, your nervous system, your responsibilities. You cannot remove those variables and expect the same outcome. Let's talk about why cookie cutter advice fails so many capable people. The first reason is it ignores seasonality. What worked when you were single, child-free, fully resourced, able to just, come and go as you please. It does not work the same way when you are caregiving, when you're healing, when you're building, or when you're stretched thin. When I was starting to build my business, I had a daughter that was going through trauma. I was getting myself into therapy. I had a newly blended family. All the things. All the things. What worked then isn't working now. And the reason for that is I am way more child-free than I've ever been in my whole entire life, right? Like, we've got to remember, I was a single mom. I was a young mom. I was 20 years old when I had my daughter. Like, I don't know what child-free really looks like outside of being a child myself. Like, I have no idea, right? So there are seasons for sprinting and seasons for stabilizing, and then there's seasons for resting while staying in the same game. Advice that assumes that one pace is all that needs to happen will eventually burn you out. Second reason, it ignores the nervous system capacity. So some people, they thrive under pressure. Like, if you give me a deadline, I am like, yes, ma'am, I will get it done. Beep, boop, boop. Other people will shut right down. They're like, no, absolutely not. Like, I can't do pressure. My best work comes from pressure. And some people love visibility, right? Like, some people love being in the limelight. Other people really need privacy to think clearly. And both of those are okay. Some people really need structure and other people really need flexibility, right? There is no moral superiority in how you're wired, but forcing yourself into strategies that constantly dysregulate you in whatever side of the spectrum that you fall, you will never lead to sustainable success. Third reason, it ignores values. If your definition of success doesn't match the strategy that you're following, you'll always feel conflicted. If you value presence but follow advice built on constant availability, you'll resent your business. If you value depth but follow advice built on volume, you'll feel empty, right? Like, it is, if you are following the opposite of who you are, what your values align to, you're always going to feel anxious. And this isn't a mindset issue. It's literally just because it's misalignment. So let's talk about your unique success equation, because you do have one, even if you've never named it. Right? Your equation is made up of a few components, and we're going to talk about those. And when those components are super aligned, things start to feel easier. Like, they're not effortless by any means. It's not like, oh, all the world is, here it is, my business is doing great, but it's cleaner. So the first component is capacity. Not your potential, but your actual capacity right now. So I want you to ask yourself, how much time do I realistically have? How much energy can I realistically, sustainably give? And how much complexity can I manage without overwhelm? Because when you have honest capacity, that's what creates sustainable momentum. When you understand what your actual capacity is right now, and you don't ignore it, then you build a business that isn't created on guilt and burnout. The second component is values. What matters to you? Like, what matters to you and doesn't sound good on paper? Do you value freedom, stability, impact, creativity, community, income, flexibility? Like, what are your values? And none of these are wrong, but they lead to very different business decisions. Your success equation must honor what you actually care about, not what you think you should care about. Yeah? The third component is strengths. not what you're quote unquote working on, like what actually comes natural to you. How do you communicate the best? How do you build trust? How do you think, right? How do you problem solve? Because building a business around your strengths is not cheating, it's leadership. And again, we're focused on building sustainable businesses, right? So if that is true, then we need to focus on our strengths. The fourth component is the constraints. And this is where people get stuck because they see that constraints are limitations instead of designed parameters. Time limits, health considerations, like your family responsibilities, maybe your financial reality. Your constraints don't necessarily disqualify you, but they definitely inform what your strategy needs to be. Because some of the most sustainable businesses are built because of the constraints, not in spite of them. So when you put your capacity, your values, your strengths, and your constraints all together, you get your equation. And that equation will not look like anyone else's. But that's the point. Like, that's why it becomes your business, right? Like, we're not building someone else's business. When you run an MLM, you're running someone else's business. That's what you're doing. When you're showing up to an office every day, you are running someone else's business, right? Like that is a fact. And it is usually built on their values, their strengths, their constraints that they've put, as parameters. And they've given you the capacity in which you need to be using in order to move their needle forward, right? Like that is just the reality. That's not saying that's a bad thing at all, because they have an equation, and the equation has made it a successful business. And so same thing with an MLM, same thing with showing up to an office somewhere. You're utilizing their equation. But when you are building your own business, you've got to figure out what your equation is. And here's something that I want you to hear clearly. You are not required to build loudly. And you are not required to scale quickly or even figure out whatever your equation is overnight. And you certainly, my friend, are not required to want what everyone else wants. Matter of fact, you shouldn't. Because success that costs you your health, your peace, or your sense of self is not a success. It's just freaking expensive. And so when we talk about equations, if you know what your equation is as a human, and it fits into someone else's equation, that is beautiful and that is lovely. And you can learn a lot of things there. But when it doesn't fit, then you have a personal responsibility to make the change, right? And same thing goes for your business, right? Like if you start with an equation and over time things change, that's okay. But your business also needs to pivot with the equation. And let me say this gently. If you keep forcing yourself into strategies that don't fit, eventually you'll stop trusting yourself. And when you don't trust yourself, decision-making becomes exhausting. The goal is not to follow advice better. The goal is to filter advice smarter. So here's a better question to ask when you hear business advice. Instead of saying like, oh, will this work for me? Ask yourself who it's for. In what season is this for, and at what cost? Because then you're able to ask, does this align with how I actually want to live and what fits in my equation? That's having discernment. That's having leadership. That is CEO level thinking in all areas of your life, right? We're not just talking about business here. We are talking about any advice that you are given in life. It's not, will this work for me? It is, who is this for, in what season, and at what cost? And does this align with how I actually want to live? And I want to leave you with this. You don't need another blueprint. You need permission to customize. You need permission to slow down where others are racing with their heads cut off. You need to simplify where others complicate. And you need to build something that fits you. Because when your business aligns with your life, consistency gets easier. Decisions get clearer, and success stops feeling like it's something that you're chasing, and it really starts to feel like something that you're building on purpose. That's your unique success equation. Hey friend, thanks for hanging out with me today. If something in this episode clicked for you, I want you to shoot me a DM over on Instagram. The link is in the show notes. Let's chat about how you're making the messy middle work for you. If you loved what you heard, would you mind sharing this episode with a friend who needs to hear it too? And drop a quick review if you don't mind. It helps get the word out, and I appreciate it more than you know. Catch you in the next one.